Hi everyone, welcome to Adventure Log. Today we're looking at my painting The Avian Rider Knight and how I painted it. Let's dive in. So after the final sketch was complete, I brought it into Photoshop and I started with a base coat of a brighter blue and a warm orange. I really wanted this painting to be set in kind of an early morning sunrise, but over some misty cliff tops. So I really wanted to have that warmth really brought in. So I started off with something really warm as my base coat. I also began to kind of start refining shape, defining the clouds and the background a bit while I finished in painting my base coat. I also added a couple more birds because I felt like adding more of the flock flying around the figure would add a little bit more drama to the piece. This is also where I started to block in the greens of the trees and other colors as well in the background, but still keeping them relatively light to not hide that base coat that I painted. So at this point, this is where I started to do a second pass over my initial blocking in with a slightly more dense pass of color. Starting to kind of define the shapes a little more, but still not quite doing finer details yet. Really just more establishing what hues go where, overall tone of the piece. I feel like in this phase, things start to kind of come to life a bit. Another phase that this usually happens would be in the lighting phase towards the end, but this is kind of where you start to see the painting come more to its visualized form. And it's kind of a do or die situation that I kind of feel like in these paintings, where if you focus on one spot, at least for me, this helps me kind of decide like, okay, this painting is going the right direction or I need to start over. It kind of helps you get through that quote unquote ugly phase that tends to happen in paintings. For me, I focused on the wing initially, just so I can see, okay, the mood is there, the color's there. I really liked how everything was going. I also then decided to do a yellow scarf just because I thought it was like a really nice pop of color in contrast to all the golds and blues that were going on. This like almost chromatic yellow scarf I felt like was a really cool focal point to have on the night. At this point, I just kind of went back in and tightened up the face a bit, kind of adjusted things, changed things up. I wasn't super happy with the sketch of the face. I was happy with pretty much everything else. So I kind of went back in and refined that, adjusted things here and there, fixed things to match the angle a little bit more. I also tightened up the armor a little bit more in this section as well, just kind of bouncing back between that and the hair and the face. Starting to do some more of that blocking that I was doing on the wing, but now on other parts of the painting. This kind of helps define more of the piece and the direction you're going in with it. Again, where lighting is going and all that stuff. I wanted to give her some sort of version of like fantasy aviator goggles, big rounded lenses, and I kind of landed on this almost owl-like look for the helmet and the mask, and I'm pretty pleased with it. I think it came out pretty cool and it fits the theme really well. Now we're starting to block in the bird and do other finer details. Still not super fine details, we're still relatively zoomed out and doing still bigger strokes, but if you kind of view it as you start off very wide angle, very big picture, and you kind of gradually go in, you're kind of at the midpoint now, and then you get to the finer details, which is like zoomed in. We're kind of at that midpoint, adding some details and musculature to the bird specifically at the moment, but kind of also touching up all over the place outside of that bird as well. I wanted to make the bird have this strength to it, to look like it could actually be like a mount, something that can be ridden on. I really wanted to add some exaggerated definition here and there just to kind of really sell that a little bit. So we jumped ahead a little bit with some now changes in lighting. I did a color lookup pass. It's basically a filter you could do in Photoshop that kind of adjusts the color in spots. It kind of works very similar to like an Instagram filter almost a little bit. I used that on top of where I was at, and then I painted on top of that. It kind of helped establish some sort of cohesion a little bit closer to what I was going for with the base coat. And it also beefed up some of the oranges that I really wanted in the warmth of the painting. So it really helped establish that mood a bit. If you're an illustrator and using Photoshop, I recommend trying the color lookup tool. It's pretty handy. You can get really different moods with them, and that can kind of help direct where you go in this painting. We're now starting to paint like the details of the birds in the background. I'm trying to keep them relatively light because I want the focus to still be on the central figure. But you kind of see throughout the painting that I start to kind of adjust the values a little bit to bring them a little closer. But I kept them relatively faded back. I really wanted these like peaky mountains, like these stiff, tall peaks with moss and wildflowers growing on top of it. Thought about adding some waterfalls and stuff to kind of help draw the eye down and seeing how high you actually were up, but then I felt like it kind of worked with the peaks that we were already at, so I abandoned that idea. I feel like the mountains were really important in this painting because it helped establish like where you were in the painting as well. You being now on top of one of the mountains that you see in the background kind of helps tell a story a little bit. Now we're kind of here like refining little details. I usually zoom in a lot on these, but for this one I kind of stayed zoomed out a bit. Just kind of going through piece by piece, detailing bits, fixing bits, painting over the sketch as much as I can see. Then we kind of did another pass of a warmer tone shadow to build that depth. I think it's okay to kind of like over dramatize like shadow just to kind of help build mood. My goal isn't to be super realistic. My goal is to just kind of make a nice piece that is captivating, and I hope I did that. So we're really starting to come close to the finish line here. We're building up that value again in those background birds because I still felt they were a little far away. We're building up details everywhere, like the knight's armor and the bird's feathers and wings. But we're just kind of refining everything, toning everything up, fixing mistakes and details as we go. I'm so pleased with how this piece turned out. It feels really rare that what you see in your head completely translates to the page. But I will say, with practice and patience, it happens more and more frequently, and this really feels like exactly what I wanted. I hope you enjoyed my process, and I hope this was helpful in some way to you and your art. Thank you for watching, and keep creating.